Hello, mediums. It's December 15th, 2016. Welcome to the premiere episode of our brand new show, Thursday Night Lights, Thursday Night Live. And first show, already messed up the
Off to
intro.
a
I'm
good
Josh
start.
Hayes. I'm here with my friendly co-host, Scott Moon. Tonight, we're going to be talking about reading, writing, and everything in between here on Keystroke Medium. We don't have a guest tonight. Our Thursday night show is a new venture we're trying to see if we can expand our viewership and kind of expand what we're doing here with Keystroke Medium. We got some news we're going to bring you tonight, a couple of different segments of new releases, some traditional and indie publishing news, just some general related news to science fiction and publishing in general. We're going to share some things that are going on with our lives, and then maybe get into some craft and marketing topics while we're here. So everyone that's listening on the podcast later and everybody who's watching live now, thanks for joining. Scott, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing good. Yeah, had a pretty good day. I don't know how much we're going to talk about all the breakthroughs we had today, but we do have some things coming up in the next few months that's going to be pretty exciting. We'll talk a little bit about it. We can't mention names, but
yes, we cannot. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening for Keystroke Medium and Sci-Fi Explorations. A lot of things that's going to be happening in the next year, even in the next 4 months that we just learned about tonight. And I can't wait to share it with everyone. I think it blew me away when we got presented with this stuff tonight, and we really haven't even had time to sit down and talk about it.
I know that we were hoping to do that before the show, but we both got some other things that happened in there. I was literally rendered speechless by the possibilities of that. So if you that's saying something.
It is saying something for you to be speechless.
People watch the show and they think, "Oh, Scott's so polite. He just sits back there and listens, doesn't interrupt." I do interrupt sometimes, but like in real life, I talk an awful lot. So
that's right.
Especially if you get me on a tangent about one of my favorite things. So,
which is fairly easy to do if you know what
not too bad
things are.
I can talk about this coaster right here probably for 30 minutes and make you a good story about it. Pick up a random object.
Well, it's just to kind of start us off. I think I'm going to talk about some new books that are coming out or have just been recently released that I was kind of intrigued about. Mm-hmm. For those of you who are listening on the feed, these may or may not be new by the time you listen to it, but as of the live show today, they are new, and they are good deals as of December 15th, 2016. CC Akke's new book, the new Star Brigade book, is out, and that will be featured in our sci-fi-explorations.com newsletter. If you are unaware of what sci-fi-explorations.com is, it is a bi-weekly newsletter that our collective sends out to our subscribers every 2 weeks, and shares deals from member authors. So we have authors that are members that bring in their readership to the collective, and every 2 weeks we send out notifications and good deals that are happening for that.
They're really good insider deals because these are people who, it's direct to the authors. So
right.
Why don't you give an example of kind of a few of the people that we have that participate in Sci-Fi Explorations?
Okay. Well, like I just said, we have CC Akkeke. He's the author of the Star Brigade series. Richard Fox is in the group. Jacob Cooper is in the group. Isaac Hook, Ralph Kern. Of course, you and I are in the group. Mm-hmm. Stephen Palmer, Robert Campbell, he was on the show on Monday. There are a lot of good authors, a lot of good books that are coming out, and we're getting more authors added to it every day to share their new releases and their deals. So if you are not a part of that, The link will be in the description below and in the show notes. It's sci-fiexplorations.com, and all you got to do is drop your email in there, and you'll get those deals every 2 weeks. One of the other new releases that came out today, Timothy C. Taylor, released a new book, or is releasing a new book.
Right.
It's called After War. It's the Revenge Squad Book 1. It will be released December 20th, so 5 days from this show, December 20th, 2016. And it is a new book and a new series for him. It's a Space Marine type genre. And he's published several other ones that I have read. And they're good books. The characters in them are very genuine, and when you read them, there's a whole lot of action in those books that you can get into and just enjoy them. I recommend them. The other book that's come out that is not a new release, it's a re-release, and it's Jacob Cooper's Circle of Rain. He worked with David Farland to kind of rewrite that book after it was published. And now it is published in audiobook form and in ebook and paperback with the help of David Farland. And Michael Kramer has done the narration on the audiobook, which is fantastic. If you've never heard Michael Kramer's books, go listen to a sample of his reading.
Right.
Great.
If anybody's ever listened, big fans of Michael or Robert Jordan, the Wheel of Time series, if you've listened to those, Michael Kramer's the narrator of that book and several others. And so that's pretty big. I know Jacob was very excited to get him to do the book. Oh
yeah. And the first one was great. The first Circle of Rain, and then the prequel, The Altar of Influence, which is also rewritten as far as I understand. Those two books are very good. The magic system was intriguing. The characters were very good, even though I read them in order, and you're actually supposed to read them out of order. So I was kind of I was thrown. Yeah.
You would have thought.
I was thrown for a loop. I read the first one. I was like, okay. Or the prequel. And then I read book 1, The Circle of Rain. And I was like, in the first chapter, I was like, no, this can't happen. So
yeah.
Very good books. Highly recommended. Jacob Cooper.
Yeah. I always see books like that have been out for a little bit, and I always want to read them straight through from the prequel, because it makes sense to read the prequel before the other thing, but not always the way the authors had them planned.
Not always ideal.
Right. And Farland, for people new to this show, Farland was on the show a while back, and he's known for obviously his writing. What's this? The series?
Rune Lords
series, right? Which I haven't read yet. I'm like the only person in the fantasy realm who hasn't read those.
I haven't read,
but I've read some other stuff in there, and it's pretty good. People know him because he had some famous students.
Yes, Brandon Sanderson. What was the other? He said somebody else. Stephanie Meyer. That's right.
The Maze Runner guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Maze Runner. Oh, crap!
I'm pretty sure he was one of them.
And he wrote Scorched Earth, and now I can't think of his name. I have to look it up.
So that's all cool. So those are all people that we have. Some of our core members of our sci-fi explorations.
James Dashner, that's what it was.
Yeah, there you go. And we come across people that we like and that do good things, and we get them on there and we share some deals. So yeah, that's exciting. And hopefully we'll have some even better things with the newsletter coming up and some extra bonuses for members.
There are going to be some extra bonuses coming up. Man, I love being all sneaky and mysterious
having secrets is so much fun, especially when they're like mind blown type of secrets.
Yeah, let me just say that when we got this group message and it went off and I read the first paragraph, my immediate reaction was to stop the car and just
pull over.
Just pull over and cry, because it was so cool to have that opportunity presented to us. And we had actually been talking about something similar a couple weeks before, and then for somebody else just to come to us and say, hey, what do you think about this? And we're like, yeah, that's a great idea.
It's very affirming when you have an idea for kind of a group effort, and then some other people that you had envisioned being part of that completely unprompted have a similar or complementary idea is awesome.
Right.
So
I think we can announce, and even I won't announce any names, but we do have somebody else joining our team in the next, I think probably in the next 2 weeks or so, maybe in January, we'll be able to announce somebody else joining our actual Keystroke Medium Company team. That will be very cool. And an event that we have planned with him and somebody else that will happen around the April-March timeframe. We're going to start promoting in January, and you'll get a lot of information by the end of January, and we're going to be hinting about it a lot. And it's, I think, anybody that's interested in writing books, writing sci-fi books, anybody, our viewers and listeners that are authors, are really going to be interested, I think, in this deal. And I'm really excited to bring it to you guys.
But it'll be fun for everybody. So I'm looking at some of our show notes here. We're talking about new books. We talked about KK's book, Shannon Mayer's Pamela.
Yeah, that came out a couple days ago, and I thought that was interesting because you've talked with Shannon a few times, and she's got a lot of books, and she's just came out with one just a couple of days ago.
She's one of the first people I met on Twitter when I first started getting into indie publishing, and I actually won one of her contests. I have
nice.
One of her books, mouse pads. Now I have that mouse pad that I can't pick it up because it's too big. The one from Mark Allen Idlebright.
Idleheight. The Tigers mouse pad.
The Tiger's Time, and it's like a 3-foot mouse pad that is awesome. So
yeah, cool. Actually, I think here.
Yeah,
I can get mine out. But it's really cool, the swag that you can get. And I've actually found here. I got it up.
Yeah.
See if I can get the very cool. That's a mouse pad, if you guys can believe it.
It's like a super mouse pad. I can mouse anywhere now.
It's like 8 mouse pads in one. And I've actually got a way to hang it. I found these. I was like, how am I going to hang it on my concrete wall? And I found these Command adhesive Velcro things that you put on the back of whatever you want to hang. And
I didn't know we were doing a how-to show. It's like Tool-Time Tim Taylor or whatever.
I could be that neighbor Wilson and never show my face. Stuff like that.
Awesome.
So you wrote down in the indie news section, we're going to break this Thursday night show down into a couple segments. We talked about some new releases, which we're going to try to do every show. It will just depend on what books release before Thursday. And obviously any authors that we're not aware of that have new releases coming out, definitely send us a note, drop us a line, and we'll try to get your book included in our new release listing for that segment. We also want to talk about publishing news, indie publishing news, even traditional publishing news that is happening in the weeks. Now, I found an article that was kind of interesting about quality versus quantity in the ebook market. And this was I found this on goodereader.com, published by Michael Kowalski. And basically they're talking about
when was that first published?
Just published to December 11th.
Okay.
So 4 days ago. And basically they're talking about the quality of indie books and how that is affecting the book market as a whole, or the ebook market as a whole. So in 2014, they had 215. I'm sorry, in 2015, they had 579 participants. In 2014, they had 215 participants. And this year, 2016, they had 698 participants. So every year, it's increasing the number of participants they have in this study. They found that in the survey, the most the highest percentage of issues that customers were concerned about was quality, and that was 56% of the respondents in this survey said that was a major concern of them. And formatting and errors caused by automatic conversion. By automatic conversion, I'm assuming they're meaning from paperback to ebook without having a separate formatting to go along with.
Well, and part of that happens is, depending on how long you've been doing this or if you do it at all, when you upload a book, there's several different ways to do that. And I know I listened to Mark Coker at a conference talk about that, and he does Smashwords, and he advocates basically stripping all of the HTML out of your Word document before you put it up there. But then you have to set your presets on Word, because you might select all and make everything Times New Roman font, but your document is still defaulted to Arial. And so then when you upload that book to an aggregator or to KDP or whatever, then it'll read that as the default. And then you're wondering, how come I got all this stuff? That's not how it looked when I did it. You have to really set your course. So formatting books is easy, but there are certain quality steps you need to do. And then some people, of course, take it with vellum and things like that, the next level, to where they're putting fancy characters and pictures and all kinds of crazy stuff in there.
I'm actually curious to try out vellum. I mean, I use Scrivener, and I use a very simplified version of formatting in Scrivener.
I read one of Chris Fox's new books. I think it's a six-figure author recently, and he talked about reading in your genre. And I found a whole bunch of books that I wanted to read that looked great, and I was initially intrigued. And one of them that I started to read, the formatting had that exact problem where all of the indents, you'd have a 0.5 indent, but the next paragraph would be 0.75 indent. All of the paragraph terms are indented differently. And I'm usually above kind of minor weird formatting things, but that was extremely distracting. And I was displeased, and I quit reading. And I'm somebody who has a hard time quitting reading a book.
So, well, and I'll tell you, I have this similar experience. I'm reading a book called Through the Stars Struggle, I think is what it's called. I just want to double check. I'm about 25% through the ebook, Through Struggle the Stars by John J. Lumpkin. And this was recommended to me by Scott McGlasson. It's a very kind of it's not a like a Star Wars based space opera, like where there's a whole bunch of lasers and fighters and hyperspace travel and all that kind of stuff. It's a very kind of streamlined, scientific based space opera.
Right.
Where, for instance, the lasers, they don't have any color, obviously. They don't have any sound. But if you shoot a laser at a ship, obviously they can reverse azimuth that and hit you as soon as you shoot the laser. They can, right? So they've got
definitely given up your position. I never really thought of it like that, but that's a pretty good point.
Yeah, and so they can shoot back at you almost instantly with these lasers, and it's just that's just one of the aspects. Now, I like the book. It's got out of 130 ratings on Goodreads, it's got 3.88 average.
On Goodreads, that's a really good average on Goodreads, because generally Goodreads, they have a little tougher critics.
Yeah, and the thing about Goodreads, you're right. You're absolutely right. They're tougher, and they typically don't leave reviews. It's just a star rating. So when they're done, they said, if I didn't like that enough, I'll just hit the stars, because the stars is very an easy thing to do. Right. I will say that with this book, I do like the writing. It's very Tom Clancy-esque, military fiction. But to get back to the point of the formatting is, I don't think it's been formatted correctly. There are times when I see you have a section break where instead of having a tab, it's flush indented with the margin. It's not indented, right? So that I think is correct sometimes, but there are times where there should be a tab and there shouldn't be lines, and there are. So sometimes it's a paragraph tab, paragraph with no space.
Right.
But sometimes there's a paragraph, space, paragraph, whether a tab or not tab. Sometimes it's just very random, and it's not like it's not something that's hugely like affecting the book. But for me, when I read it, I'm like, is this a scene break? Is something else happening here? Like I'm not really sure what happened with the formatting. So it's very distracting.
Yeah. I think that generally with formatting, fiction oftentimes uses a no break between paragraphs and this indent of whatever, whether it's 0.3 or 0.5 or 0.2 or whatever.
Right.
And then nonfiction is generally the ones where there's no indent and there's white space between the paragraphs.
Right.
But what I read early on is you can pick one, you can pick the other, doesn't matter, but you can't do both because that makes you look like an amateur.
Absolutely. You got to pick one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You got to pick one or the other. And so it really if you're losing readers on formatting, that's an easy fix. And it's kind of sad that you would lose readers over something like that.
Right.
You can either learn to do it yourself very easily to, take a little bit of time, or have somebody do it.
Right. And that kind of brings me back to the article that we were talking about that I found. It said that of the amount participated, so 680 some, only 45% hired an editor, which is actually up from last year. 33% performed self-checks, which I'm not sure if it's self-checks only, and then self-checks and getting an editor, and 18% performed a QA prior to conversion, which I think that was QAing the material before they made it into an ebook. But I'm not sure because it doesn't specify. But it does say the point of the article is quality over quantity.
And where did they get the statistics from, do you think?
The statistics are from their study.
Okay.
So like in 2016, they had 698 participants in this specific study where they were saying, what is it about this ebook that you have concerns about? And then they break those concerns down into percentages. And because formatting was the biggest percentage of this study, they went ahead and broke that down and figured out, what's going on.
I guess my question was, is they say, I'm kind of looking at the article now, they say nearly 45% hire editors, which was up, like you said.
Right.
But is that self-reporting? So they said, yeah, I hired an editor, or
that I don't know. That'd be
interesting to know, because that could be a slightly inflated number. Everybody's going to say they hired an editor, because they don't want to look like they're on a bucket system or whatever.
But I do like the there's a couple sentences in the last paragraph that say, the reality is the poorly converted digital ebooks are flatly rejected by readers, and readers are no longer willing to accept and struggle through a poorly converted ebook or formatted ebook. I think that's correct to a point. I'm not sure if they're flatly rejected by readers, because I think if the story is good enough, some readers will, like you said, ignore the bad formatting and just read the story.
I've read traditional. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, I think his point is correct that the majority of readers are getting to a point where they know that the technology is out there. They know that the process are out there available to these indie authors or small presses, that bad formatting is avoidable. And if you're not doing everything you can do to avoid that bad formatting or bad presentation of that book, then you're doing your readers a disservice. So you should really look into that. Definitely.
And I think a lot of readers, I know I do a lot of my reading on my phone. And, a little bit of discomfort in the formatting on your Kindle Paperwhite is a lot different than trying to read on your phone, which is already hard enough. My eyes are about to fall out of my head as it is. I don't need to deal with somebody's haphazard formatting thing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
That's why I've been wearing my glasses, is because my vision right now is right on that cusp where I either need them or I don't, but I can kind of do either.
Right.
And so some days, if I've done a lot of reading and editing and stuff, and oh man, it just tears me up. But anyway, that's there. So that's a good article. I like that one. What do we got next?
Well, I have lithub.com/bookmarks. Now, I found this. I'm not even exactly sure I found it, but basically, what Literary Hub is a collection. It's basically a site where you can go and find a book and see how people are reviewing it on sites across platforms. So you can go and you can see they pull these reviews from different sites and say, does it have a rave review? Does it have a positive review? Is it a mixed review?
That's pretty interesting.
And they pull all that stuff together here. The only thing that I was kind of let down about is it's obvious to me that this is a new site, but it's also mostly geared to literary/contemporary fiction.
Right.
And when you look at the categories or the genres, they're not really broken down. For instance, when I looked at it on my phone, I'm going to look at it again here. There was not a science fiction category. They had fantasy, but that was it wasn't like George R. R. Martin fantasy.
Right.
So for our audience, I'm not sure, unless you're into literary or contemporary fiction, I'm not sure that lithub.com is going to be a site that you're going to want to visit more than a couple times. But I thought that the idea was very interesting in that having a site that is it's not an Amazon and it's not a Barnes and Noble,
right?
And it's not selling you something per se,
right?
It's bringing the data together and then showing you where and how the data is coming through, and just telling you whether or not you're going to like the book or not. And that's very cool. I think
it's looking at it, you're absolutely right. It's pretty narrow. It always makes me wonder if people who don't read fantasy or never read it really, what they consider fantasy. It's kind of like when you look for science fiction book covers. If you ever look for a science fiction pre-made book cover, what people think makes up a science fiction book cover, obviously have no idea, and have probably never read science fiction, because there's some really weird ones out there. But like, what I do like about this site is it's pretty clean, and it doesn't take a lot of time. If you mouse over one of these books, it gives you kind of a rating. They have rave, positive, mix, and pan, and then it shows you how many, how it does on their little graph there.
Right.
And it gives you it's real quick,
It's very simple.
Yeah, as busy as everybody is, I don't necessarily want to read a 2,000-page blog article and everything. Sometimes I just need to take a quick look and get the information right off the bat.
The cool thing, it'll also tell you, if you mouse over a particular book, it will tell you, before you mouse over it, it'll tell you the majority of the response is either positive or rave or mixed or pan, which I'm guessing pan is bad because it's not any of the other ones. But it'll tell you before you mouse over the book what it is, and then you can mouse over the book and see what the level of
positive mixed. I'm really curious to what that pan is. I'd be interested to know what the etymology of their choice. And using that word right, that would be really cool, but I'm probably not.
The cool thing is also that it will tell you, if you go into a book, for instance, I went to the most talked about books section, and in this particular section, The Mothers by Britt Bennett, you can see that it has positive reviews. When you mouse over it, it's got 6 rave, 5 positive, and 2 mixed reviews on the book.
No pans.
No pans. So then you can go and you can see what the publisher is. You can see when it was published. For instance, this book was published on October 11th, 2016. Mm-hmm. And then it gives you a sample breakdown of what the reviewers say. But if you click on the 13 reviews, it will tell you who wrote the review and where the review was published in, and then it will take you to read the full review. Yeah. The interesting thing about this site is that there is not a place to buy the book.
Right.
So this is not a sales site. This is purely a review site, which I think is very interesting.
So where do they make their money, or are they just doing this out of the good of their heart?
It's I don't know. I mean, they've got a section for advertising. It looks like.
Okay. Is there an author contact us, advertise?
It'd be interesting to know what their model is, because if you could do this for science fiction and fantasy books, and mystery or whatever, like I said, these books are majority just
kind
literary books.
They're kind of mainstreamy books.
I don't even know about mainstream because I've never seen any of these books. I mean, we're talking like way just. Well, let's say they have Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen. I did see a Lee Child's book, I think. But anyway, so I thought that was interesting. Literary Hub, the actual website, Lit Hub, is they have a wealth of knowledge on their actual website. But I thought that the combination of bringing all those reviews to one place and then giving the ease of just being able to mouse over a book and saying, okay, yeah, it's good. I like that. So
yeah. Well, I'm really curious about that. I kind of like to know more but if anybody knows more about Literary Hub and they want to leave a comment.
Do so.
Or they could even email us at keystroke.medium@gmail.com. I'm just curious, it's not burning me up to know. I'm not like thinking there's a plot or something. I'm just curious because it is a very clean site. So what's next on our list? We got something from Goodreads. That's all you picked out?
Yeah. Well, the Goodreads Choice Awards just came out. It was last week or a couple weeks ago. And I'm always curious to see how the awards pan out and which books are picked for the categories.
Right. I don't see mine on there.
Mine is not on here, coincidentally.
It's got to be fixed.
Yeah. No, but I like because you can look and see what books got how many votes. So like the winner of the science fiction category is Morningstar by Pierce Brown. Now I've heard a lot about this series of books, Red Rising, Morningstar, and I can't remember what the other one is.
Okay, I'm trying to find the science fiction section here. I'm looking at just the main landing page.
If you click on the link that's in our shared folder, it'll take you straight.
Oh, it says view results, categories. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm dumb.
Just click on the science fiction category, and it'll take you to there. And you can see Morningstar won. Dark Matter by Blake Crouch got second.
I'm there now. I wasn't reading the headings. Like I said, sometimes you got to walk me. Sometimes you got to take me by the hand and lead me.
Come on, Scott.
We're going.
Come on. We're going over here. You'll get your treat in a minute.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to me because the book that I thought was going to be higher than it is Peter Hamilton's A Night Without Stars, and it only got 1,108 votes, and it's fourth from the last.
Yeah, but you know what? That's the thing is it's going to be around for 20 years. You know what I mean? Some of these books are going to be up on here for 2 weeks, but Peter F. Hamilton's books, they got some staying power. So we'll see how they do in the long term. I know Remnants is right next to Peter F. Hamilton.
Yep.
Both of them on the show. I'm so proud.
Yes, two guests on the show in the top. What is that? I don't even know. 20? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, top 20. So we need to work on a couple of more of these.
I think we should talk about book covers a little bit while we're here on this page. Okay. So if anybody's following along on the Reader's Choice Awards here on Goodreads, number 2 in the science fiction section is Dark Matter. And I've seen that before. I have not read it yet. But with everything we say about book covers, it's not a bad book cover, but probably it's interesting.
Yeah. It's with all the school of thought that you get on book covers that they pound into you for book covers. Dark Matter does everything that doesn't. It goes the exact opposite way.
unless you're a bestseller and you got 31,389 votes for book of the year, then you can do whatever you want. So I'm going to click on it.
Dark Matter was definitely sold on Blake Crouch's name,
right,
and not the cover. But coincidentally, the Star Wars cover is very good. Bloodline, I like that cover. It's very, very unique. I like the Darth Vader background to it.
Lindsay Broker's in the top 22, top 20.
I believe that's a Tom Edwards cover.
It's looking like a Tom Edwards cover, who coincidentally just did a big pre-made book cover release. I think they're almost all sold out, but if you're interested in getting a good book cover by Tom Edwards, who has done book covers for a large percentage of the sci-fi bestsellers lately, his Tom Edwards Design, is that the
TomEdwardsDesign.com.
Right. And when I left the site earlier today, there was like 2 or 3 that had not been bought out of about 20. So probably by the time you listen to this, it's all over. But the crying, you've missed your chance. You cannot get a Tom Edwards cover. That way, you'll have to go ahead and contact him and wait 6 months.
Let's see. I'm looking at it right now because the covers are phenomenal. If anybody is watching or listening to the show that is a science fiction writer and you need a good science fiction cover that isn't stock art that's slapped together, Tom Edwards
is just probably some black letters on a red page with your name on it,
or black letters on a red page and your name's Blake Crouch. Tom Edwards does phenomenal covers from very basic. And by basic, his basic covers are better than some of the most designer covers out there now, I think, in my opinion. The ships are unique. It's not the thing about science fiction, like you said, Scott, is you go to a cover design website for either pre-designed covers or what, and you look and it's always the same ship. It's always the same planet. It's always the same looking thing for every sci-fi book cover that's out there right now. Tom Edwards, though, and we had him on the show, and we'll link that show in the description, but he actually models those ships in 3D before he transfers them over and paints them and draws them. He models them out, and they're unique, and you can order your own custom ship if you want. And
you got to be if you're going to use Tom Edwards, though, you do have to plan ahead because he's booked 6 months out. As soon as we talked to him, I was so impressed. I went ahead and contracted to get a book cover done for my new work in progress. And the first chance I had to get him to work with me on that was in April, and that was probably, I think, November or late October when I contacted him about that. So that's why I jumped on the pre-mades, and I got one today. So I was pretty happy about that. So maybe when that gets done, I'll put that up on our Facebook page next week or something.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. I'm interested to see which one you got. I just went and looked, and I scrolled through. There are, unless he hasn't updated it, as of right now, there are 5.
Because it's like 2 in the morning or something.
Where he's at, he's probably sleeping. But looks like there are 5 available, and these are very nice covers. There are 5 available, and how he did the pre-mades is that he did 4 categories. He did Core, Advanced, Elite, and Prime, and all those are priced differently. They're all about $50 difference or 50 pounds difference. So I'm not really sure how that equates to the US.
I'll tell you, it's like $1.26. One when I looked it up today on Google, 1 pound or whatever is $1.26 US. So
okay,
so anyway, you can do the math.
So he has Core, which his core level is basically just a ship. You have a space background, and I say just a ship, but these things are very nice looking.
You have just one totally badass ship in an awesome space field.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and see if I can share it here. Screen share, because these things are very cool, very nice. Present, and I'm going to do Nope, that's not what I wanted. Well, I'm not sure what it's doing now.
Well, while you're working on that, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about book covers, but I think I don't know why. I think we should try to get Lindsay Broker to come on the show. Doesn't she do a lot of podcasts and stuff?
She does the science fiction and fantasy marketing.
Maybe we can reach
podcast. Out. Yeah, absolutely. She'd be great to have on. Well, I'm not sure what happened with the screen share deal because I'm not.
Did you do a screen unshare?
Nope, that's not right. Show.
Hey, coincidentally, whoa, what did I do? While we're sitting here working on that technical thing, can you hear my mouse clicking when I'm surfing around reading all these blogs?
I can hear that.
Yeah. You can or cannot?
I can hear it.
I was talking while you're talking and that wasn't working. All right. Well,
so
I don't want to.
I can't show you, but go over to TomEdwardsDesigns.com. Check it out. The core ones are just a ship with a space background, and then he's got the elite, or I'm sorry, the advanced, which are basically like a ship and a planet. Okay, and then you go to the elite, which is kind of a planet with some war going on, maybe one or two ships added to the mix. So you got 3 elements in there. And then you go to the prime, which is, I mean, just his prime stuff is great. I mean, the prime one that I loved is 1, 2, 3, like 6 ships and a nice planetary background, and some of them have a war scene, and just very well done. Very for the money. I mean, you're talking 500 pounds. So I don't even
500 pounds is about $700-ish.
Okay, so $700, and you can get a science fiction cover that when somebody looks at it, they're like, "Oh yeah, I know what that is. I know exactly what that is, and that's what I want to buy." And you can go and look at the top 20 books in science fiction right now on Amazon, which is what I'm going to do. And I can guarantee you that Tom Edwards at least has 3 or 4.
Well, and what are some authors he's done some for, because people might know that.
Well, he did Lindsay Brokers, like you just said. He did Daniel Aronsson's book, Earth Alone. He did Ralph Kern's book Unfathomed. He's done our anthology covers. He's done Nick Webb stuff. Yep. I mean, if you list out a science fiction space opera / military story that's doing very well, a Tom Edwards cover is most likely attached to it.
Yeah. Okay. So, we got so much stuff we've been talking about all week. I want to get to some more of it. So let's make a decision point. We should have a drum roll or something. Do we want to keep talking about book covers? Because we could go into my big adventure with 99 Designs, because it did turn out pretty awesome, but it was very stressful for me, and I got some useful tips. But maybe that's another show. Or do you want to go?
Well, let's see what else we have on the schedule. Let's see,
because we're going to talk about what we've been reading. We can.
Let's save 99 Designs for the next episode and just kind of talk. Because we both have done 99 Designs. We'll save that for next Thursday and see.
It's a really great thing, and I had a good experience, but we should definitely talk about it, because there's some tips that if you've never done it might be useful. So look forward.
Yeah, let's do that. I'll jot it down on the schedule right now. 99 Designs next week.
Now we're talking on our notes here. We have new review rules, removal of incentive-based reviews except for books. That's been a hot topic.
It has been a hot topic, and I wrote it down just so we could touch about it briefly. I think that with a lot of stuff that's going on in the mainstream media right now, when they talk about the fake news stuff, fake news has been around forever, and
I'm like, when did this start happening? I can't
Yeah.
believe there would ever be fake news.
Right. But I think a lot of it comes from just reading headlines on Facebook. So a lot of people read a headline and they're like, oh my God. And they have no idea what the article says and they share it based on the headline. And this happened specifically with this.
Because people don't read what they share about 90% of the time, I'm convinced. They're like, oh yeah, that kind of, I'll share that.
Right. And so that's what happened with this. There was about a week and a half that went, probably not that long, but a week of people are like, oh my God, the sky's falling. We're not going to be able to do arcs and we're going to lose all our reviews.
Oh, with talking about, we're back to the review book things because my mind had wandered. Yeah. And I immediately went and read the terms and conditions, which for me is like stabbing myself in the face with a hot poker because I don't like reading contracts, but you have to. And then other people had read them too. And it really doesn't apply to books.
And no, it does not apply to books at all. The only thing that they're talking about is for products. So like a foot massager, if a company, you can no longer on Amazon, if a company sends you that foot massager for you to review, you can't do that.
See, now you got me wanting a foot massager.
They're great, but you can't get something for free. You can't do a review for something that you're getting for free for like an incentive-based thing. Okay. You can't do that anymore. You have to have a verified purchase or a Vine, a Vine account. And I'm not exactly sure how that works.
All right.
But it does not apply to books.
So writers and readers, don't worry about it, I guess.
Right.
What they're saying.
You can send out your arcs. You can get your free copies of books out there and review them. Right. It doesn't affect writers at all. So
there's a bunch of best practices. They have some rules, and I think they're supposed to say they got an advanced reading copy. And
you don't even have to do that anymore.
And that's all.
You could, but you don't have to. It's not required.
Oh, you don't have to. I always tell in my newsletter. I always tell people to make sure they tell them you got a copy for an honest review.
Yeah, you could, but you don't have to anymore.
Oh, okay, sweet, nice. So
we got. Let's see. Well, in our next segment, we're going to say what's up with us, I think. And Scott, do you want to go first? Maybe what you got going on?
What's going on? Well, I last month I did the 99 designs. We're going to hold that over because that's kind of a long conversation.
Yeah.
Right now, I am working on a couple of things, and my main thing is my work in progress is a book called Bayonet Dawn. Mm-hmm. It's up for pre-order on Amazon for February 7th.
Are you on track to meet the February 7th deadline?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have about 62,000 words written on it, and most of that's kind of a second or third pass through most of it. So I'm pretty confident I can get that done. It's probably one of my favorite things I've written for a long time. I mean, I love it. And, people don't like it, I'll still be happy, which normally I worry about, whether people will like it, but I think it'll be good. It'll obviously need some feedback, and it's got to go to my editors, and I'm always curious to what people, beta readers and advanced readers, would say.
The idea for the book is very good, I think.
Yeah. Basically, well, I don't even want to go into that. We got 11 minutes.
I don't care. Talk about it.
I'll give you the short version of that. Bayonet Dawn is about a family. Two of them are twins, and they get stolen by an alien race, and one of them decides he wants to go off and try to find them. They're not exactly well off, so he joins the military, and he begins kind of a lifelong quest to try to reclaim his family. So it's kind of a family military drama. And then there's some very interesting things about the antagonist race. I'm trying to write a book that has less emphasis on good guys versus bad guys. Kind of everybody's got an up and a downside.
Right.
So anyway, I don't know. I'm really excited about it. I'm reading through some of it. I love some of the characters, so I'm having a blast.
Yeah, when you first approached me with the idea and we talked about it, and we kind of worked out all the different things that you had going on with the book, I thought that it was a very ambitious project, and I'm really excited to see how it all comes out.
It was really good, and I appreciate some of your early feedback. I think that I read a book, Sol Stein, on editing, and he uses the phrase top of the head writing a lot of times,
right?
Which is, just kind of going with the first thing you think of. Well, talking with you over that, and I think Richard Fox, I messaged him a few times about some things, and it made me think a little deeper about some of the elements. So hopefully it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it.
I think it will be.
Yeah. And then I got Dragonland, which is the end of my urban fantasy series, end of the trilogy. I went and had the book covers done for all 3 of those books. And that's where I spent an enormous amount of money. So that's done, wrapped up, should be come back from the editor. That's going to come out January 7th. So I'm excited.
Those new covers you have are phenomenal, by the way.
They're much better.
I can't wait till next week to actually talk about the process to get those covers, because what we thought what everybody was gonna like is not what everybody liked. It was very an eye-opening experience.
It was hard for me to admit that my favorite was everybody else's last favorite, and I started to doubt my instincts, and then I was just, the sky is falling, woe is me. But I went with one I think, and so far I've actually started to get some pretty good page reads on it because I put them in KDP Select, and before the KU crowd just kind of ignored them. So what are you up to?
Well, I am trying desperately to finish book 3 of my Second Star series. It's coming along. I think that the major problem I'm going to run into now is that when I wrote the draft, I wrote it in specific scenes, and some of those scenes are like 8,000 words.
You get these massive power scenes.
They're huge scenes, and I'm going back and it's almost like doing a complete rewrite on the story. And a lot of the sections I have done complete rewrites, and it's very frustrating. I mean, it's not frustrating, but it's very challenging to work through 100,000 words and rewrite almost everything that you've already written. But I think that it's good. Because I'm making the story whole as a whole better than I think the first 2 books were. And there's a lot of deeper content that goes into this book. There's a lot more character driven action, and a lot more not content but feeling that you get in this book. I think, from the previous 2. That's how I feel about it. We'll see. Obviously, we'll see what the readers think about it. But I've got that book. I've got that book almost ready to send to the editor. It's probably going to be end of January, I think, before I actually send it, depending on how much time I can actually sit down and work on it. But I'm ready to get it done and sent off, and then I'm also still pre-writing and still kind of doing planning on Edge of Valor, which is my military science fiction book that I have planned for next year. I wrote about 3,000 words on it the other day, as just rough drafting it out, because I've learned now that as I'm going through this writing process, that I'm going to rewrite anyway. So I'm trying not to spend so much time on the first draft and worry about the first draft than to just bang it out and then rewrite it later, because I'm going to rewrite it anyway. I think that once
first draft, unless you're an anonymous pen name, not formatting your book, then maybe you do. But the rest of us, we usually at least give them a couple of passes.
Yeah, I think that once it's done, it'll be very good. And
the stuff you've told me about and the way you laid out some of the conflicts and characters in the story, I've been wanting to get this one written for a while because I want to read it.
One of my major hangups was the first person aspect of the book, and I think I've talked about it several times, where the idea of my book is to have some of it told in third person limited and some of it told in first person limited. And the first person limited is a strict and limited view and their perception and how they tell it. So
it would be useful for somebody who doesn't know as much as I do about your story idea, why that is, because there's a reason you want some of it told in first person in your initial concept.
The idea of the book is that the mission has already failed, and the investigator is now trying to figure out why and how it failed, because there's major political repercussions that are going on with this failed mission. And so he is now interviewing the survivors of this mission, And as he interviews them, it switches from the majority of the book, and then the series after will be written in third limited, strict, POV from that character where we get their thoughts and whatnot. But as he's interviewing,
kind of like The Kingdom or A Few Good Men or some of those things, but with
right,
more military sci-fi action in there too.
Right. So, but then when he's interviewing the survivors are telling him the story from their perspective, one, but they're also telling him what they want to. So some of them are lying and some of them are not lying. But when you read it, you don't know what the lie is.
Right. So kind of like real life. Some people are telling the truth, right, and some people are dirty dogs.
So as you read it, there are Easter eggs and parts of the story that I have worked out where if you're paying attention to what happens in the mission, the stories from the survivors are going to at sometimes overlap. I'm going to try to make it as not overlappy as possible, if I can use overlappy. I like overlappy.
Overlappy.
But I don't want to do it. I don't want to do like a David Weber thing where you write a perspective of one of the battle and then you rewrite the entire battle as another person's perspective. I don't want to do that because that's very boring to me.
It's been done.
I want to be able to kind of seamlessly go from one POV to another POV and be able to link those places up. And when you read it, you're going to go, wait a minute. And then as it all comes together throughout the story, you're going to be able to put some stuff together, and it's going to be hopefully a really cool experience for the reader when it's done. Mm-hmm. And then you can go back and read it again and see and pick up where the characters are lying at.
Right.
That's what I hope for this book. So the hardest part about this now is writing in the first person, because I'm not a big first person writer, and I don't particularly like first person fiction. I really like third limited, like George Martin fiction, like Game of Thrones. I really like that type of narrative. I don't really like first person, but the way that I have this story laid out, it works for the story. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hoping that it works mechanically and craft wise. And I've gone back and listened to, and you've listened to it too, Terms of Enlistment by Marco Cluse, which is a Space Marine book, but it's also told first person through the main character. And Marco does a phenomenal job of description and narrative and telling the story all from the perspective of basically a rookie.
Right. It's a very tight point of view, and that's good. Right. That makes a lot of the best books have, whether it's, several people, but the more faithful you are to your points of view, the better. If you start doing head jumping and, right, if you're going to write an omniscient point of view book like they did 100 years ago, you need to do it intentionally. I know Stephen King has a few I've read where he's definitely in the omniscient, but he's doing it because he knows how. He's not doing it on accident.
Speaking of omniscient, the Steiger's Tigers book
is it omniscient?
It is. I didn't realize it was omniscient at first, and I don't know if he purposely did it in omniscient. I don't know. I'll have to ask him, but it is omniscient. It's omniscient third person, and it's not exactly head jumping, but it is like, it'll say like, the guy looked over here and he gave him a bad look, and then it will describe the thoughts of the guy giving him a bad look and then go back to the guy seeing the bad look, or somebody over here.
And that could be omniscient. It could be different style. People can do that. That's a little different where I thought you were going with that, but I've had editors criticize when you say somebody was annoyed and like, well, you can't know what they're really feeling because you're not in their head. I'm like, you can see when somebody's annoyed. To me, that's not head jumping.
Yeah, no, that's not head jumping.
That's like small things. But
right.
I've read books that are written by traditional authors and stuff like that, and sometimes people head jump. I think it almost happens invisibly sometimes, but I like it better when it doesn't.
Yeah, and I agree.
You can keep more tension, and it forces you to write through some problems rather than just cheat and just skip over there and find out what the other person's thinking.
Right, because you have to show more than you can tell, because you have to see it through the main character's perspective, and you have to be able to show what the character is doing. The non-POV character, you have to be able to show that and not tell it.
Right. And it's necessarily going to leave some things out, which is going to cause some tension and miscommunication, which always leads to fun and good times.
Right.
When characters don't understand each other and whatnot.
Exactly.
So,
well, we're coming up on the hour, and I thought that was a very fun first Thursday Night Live.
I'm having a blast.
We actually didn't touch on a lot of the stuff that we had planned to talk about, and so that's good because we're going to have more stuff to talk about next week.
Well, I'd like to get people to put in any ideas or send us some ideas if they have something they'd like to see talked about.
Right.
We may or may not have, not so much in the future. I think we talked about having guests, but they're not going to be people we interview. They're going to be just hanging out, like the three of us, if we do that.
Yep.
So just as a review, next time I'd like to talk about the 99 Designs experience. That could be very enlightening, and we'll make it fun. Now you've made it fun. And then,
if you're interested at all in how 99 Design works,
and even if you're not, it's like because it's very community involved. You do lots of polls, and so there's lots of interesting things about what people submitted and then how people reacted to it. So that could be fun.
Right.
I also am reading Story Grid by Sean Coyne, which I've known about for a long time. I'm not quite sure why it's taken me this long to get to it. And he talks a lot about obligatory scenes in genre fiction. And I wanted to ask you what you thought, Josh, about some of these scenes that kind of define a genre. So we definitely need to talk about that at some point.
Let's try to bring that up maybe in the beginning half of next week's episode.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that and then talk about 99 Designs. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. We really hope you enjoyed our first Thursday Night Live episode. We're going to do them every Thursday night, hopefully, barring nuclear war or sparkly vampires invading. Yes, the zombie apocalypse. Yes.
Although I think we could do like a man in the street if there's a zombie apocalypse,
Oh, absolutely.
Like jaywalking instead of going out and go out and interview some zombies.
But you're going to be the man on the street. I'm gonna sit back here in the bunker.
In the bunker, doing the cover. Look at that dummy out there talking to zombies.
And Scott's he's not live anymore. Now he's dead.
It's just to be undead.
In other news, Josh is still in his bunker. So thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Thanks for watching and listening. If you haven't liked and subscribed to us yet, please do so. We will be back next Thursday on Thursday Night Live,
Monday.
And on Monday, we have Jay Allen on the show, the author of
Marine.
He is a Marine.
Crimson Worlds?
Yes. Crimson Worlds. Yes. Crimson Worlds. Yeah, absolutely.
I read his book years ago. I never would have thought we'd have him on the show. So
yep, he will be on the show Monday at 11 U.S. Central. And then we will talk about 99 Designs and a couple other things on Thursday.
Whatever other craziness is happening.
That's right. Shenanigans.
And maybe we'll hint and maybe we'll have more information about our special collaboration, which could even be some kind of auction type thing.
Stay tuned for great Keystroke Medium news.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait.
Well, thanks for joining us. We're going to get out of here. Be sure to come back next week and hang out with us while we're talking about reading, writing, and everything in between. You're on Thursday Night Live on Keystroke Medium. Thanks, guys.
Later.